Donnie, let's go ahead and get started with the housekeeping. I think it's time. It's about 2 after, according to my clock, and we want to try to stay on time if we can. All right.
Well, first of all, thanks everybody for your time. It's a big block of your all's time, so we're respectful of that and appreciative. So diving in here today, let's go through our overview. These webinars, I mean, you probably have heard this from me before, it came about really just from customer engagement, working with our installed base, and we really just kind of stumbled onto a need of getting the existing system admins to the next level, or as you know, as people come and go, change departments, change companies, you'll have your Issuetrak system admin inherits a system, the plane's in the air, and their knowledge is limited or their comfort level stops at creating new user accounts. So we really want to get those, our installed base of customers, get the system admins to the next level, and then bring in as appropriate the next generation of new admins so they're comfortable, so you all can fully leverage your investment. Mike and Paul have done a great job. I brought this need to them about a year ago, and they just, they used to do this one-on-one, and we found a better format to do this. So they've embraced this. They're doing such a great job. We hold these monthly. We do the second Thursday of each month. We do from 1 to 3. Nominally, we start at 1. Sometimes it's 2 hours. Sometimes it's a little less. Today, we're using a 90-minute format for it. We've actually broken it up a little bit. So I'll go in the next slide, tell you about that. Let's see. So again, 90 minutes is a lot of time. Come and go. If you got to jump out, you can. It's open attendance. You can come back. And our Andrew on our marketing department, he's taken these recordings, breaking them up into session, and within about a week, he's got these posted on our website. So at some point, Mike, if you're up there, would you show on the where it is, the on-demand video link at the appropriate time, just to remind everybody where that is. Feel free to ask any questions. As Mike said, Paul and I will be doing the moderation behind the scenes. We can answer offline or as appropriate, bring it into the conversation if it's something that we need to show in order for clarification. I know in historical webinars, we've had questions unrelated to the topics. So if there's a pause in the conversation, we could bring those in, or we can follow up offline. So, it's all for the benefit of you all. So today, like I said, we changed this around a little bit. We're going 30-minute sessions. We got the 30-minute first session, it's on a usage. So this is continuing our usages conversation. We did help desk, we did customer service. So this is going to be that all-encompassing issue tracking. So we're going to go 30 minutes from a usage perspective on that. My personal favorite is the deep dive. This is where you get to really dive into and get the benefit of Mike and Paul's knowledge. They know this information, the detail in all of their levels. So the deep dive is really, that's the meat and potatoes in my mind. Our development department, these men and women, they have been pounding out some code. So much so, I'm fearing the phone call, hey, slow down, we're having to upgrade our site once a week, once a month, something like that. So we're rolling these out as the new feature section, 15 minutes telling you what just came out or what's about ready to come out. Because a lot of these features, they're turned off or you're not aware of them. So if you're not a nerd reading the release notes, you wouldn't know about it. So it really just kind of comes about in my conversations with the customers, Mike and Paul's, or support. This is a proactive way of telling you about it. And then we always open it up for a Q&A at the end. Sorry, I'm going long-winded. There's my mug shot. I'm the newbie at Issuetrak. I've only been here 8 years now. I've done relationship management, sales my whole life. Mike, also known as the Wizard of Odd, he knows how to make Issuetrak do stuff that is not humanly possible. He's been here longer than everybody, except the founder of the company, Hank Loring. He's done all of the different departments, development, support, ran that department, started that department. He's done the sales, so he's very customer centric and knows your pain and how to resolve it. Paul is the all-around professional services guy. He started a little while before I did. He was on the technical support team, and he had an aptitude for thinking outside the box and using the tables within Issuetrak to take care of the customer's needs. Anytime I got a question, it's Active Directory or now it's ADFS related, Paul's my go-to guy because I'm lucky that I can spell those two. So that's it for the intros and my cheap shot at humor. So Mike, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Well, thank you, Tony. I did want to say one thing real quick. It says one thing about Paul, you noticed on his slide that it says he used to work at a local factory. Well, it's kind of interesting because the local factory that he used to work for is now a customer of Issuetrak. So now he's going back and kind of teaching a new product to the people he used to work for. So it's a kind of an interesting juxtaposition of positions between those. So our experiences take us all who knows where. And that's kind of how I'm going to start with this today. We're going to talk about issue tracking. And of course, the name of our product and our company is called Issuetrak. So let's kind of go back, and I'm going to get over that one. But you know, if it was not for tracking issues, there would not be an Issuetrak. That's a very true statement, and it's kind of strange, but when I started back in 1998, we were not called Issuetrak, we were called Luring & Associates, and we were at a crossroads at that point. Hank hired me to help him with a project. We were a customer programming company at that time, and we were selling essentially our time for dollars, and of course, that's finite. The only way to add more time is to add either a longer work day and burn yourself out, or you have to go ahead and hire more people. So Hank got to thinking and he says, you know, I want to do a product, you know, something we can continually resell, that we can put our effort in and we can resell it and give it out. And so we had to think about it. What kind of a product do we want to create? You know, so he got to thinking about some of the companies that he had already done work for in the past, and this was even previous to when I worked for him. And he had an experience with an issue tracking system at a local company here that he built for them. It was custom built for him. And they went ahead and developed that together to handle issues or track issues within the company. So that was the idea. And it becomes a product that everyone can use. Because who needs to track an issue? Every company, large and small, needs to track some type of issue somewhere within their company. That's just a true statement. Every department and every group has issues to track, whether it's a work task or not. And then every employee has an issue that it needs to track or task that it needs to track. Whether you use email, and I have met many customers that use email folders. One of them had hundreds of folders that it was stuffing email into in order to track their issues. Another one, of course, Excel spreadsheets, famous Excel spreadsheets. I had one customer tell me they were actually had so many Excel spreadsheets they couldn't tell one from another anymore because there was so many of them that they were tracking different things with. And then finally, the famous one is called Post-it notes. Literally, I had a customer, especially early, and this is not quite as true today as it was, but early on in the early 2000s, people were using a lot of Post-it notes. And this was before the advent of the Kanban boards that you do see today with the Post-it notes all over the place. But I had customers tell me their whole laptop, all the monitors were just stuck with Post-it notes so they wouldn't forget things. So we really discovered something that everyone could use. And then we kind of turned it from there and thinking about, well, we're not just talking about companies in the private sector, we're also looking at the public sector. Because what's true for the private sector is also true for the public sector. Every local, state, and federal government agency in the United States has a need to track something, somewhere, whether it happens to be a small team or a large team. And if you expand that even further, you could say every government agency in the world has a need of some sort to track it. So that opens up a broad market. So how do you deliver that? Well, if you're doing Post-it notes, you can't do a whole lot about it. It's limited to your desktop, your wall, your Kanban board. If you're looking at it from an Excel spreadsheet point of view or an email, you've got to be attached to something. If it's Excel spreadsheet, a lot of times they're behind the firewalls. You can't get to them unless you're in the firewall. If you happen to be looking at it from an email perspective, you need some sort of way of accessing the email client, whether it's through a cell phone or through a desktop or something. Again, you're kind of tied down. So Hank, in his forethought, was doing a lot of reading about the cloud in those days. And this is early 2000, this is 1999, 2000 is what we're looking at. And so he decided that he wanted to present our product as a cloud only to allow no borders. Essentially, we could have a product that was open and available to anyone, anywhere could access a browser. So if they had a laptop, if they had a desktop, in the early days, of course, this is still early, but even the browsers on cell phones, they weren't that capable in those days, but they could still, some of them could actually access and do it. So now we have a product that's available to use everyone. So that kind of comes into, okay, why track issues? Well, operations these days depend on things you're tracking. Sales depends on tracking issues, whether an issue is defined as nothing more than a sales inquiry, or whether it's defined as an opportunity, or whether it's defined as just a salesman, you need to contact this person. It's still an issue or a task that needs to be done. Customer service, they get a call. They need to either provide a service to a customer, send out a service technician, or they have a problem that they need to resolve. Maybe they've got a situation where a particular user can't get to their hot water, or a work request, you know, a request for service, landscaping, whatever it happens to be. Just contacts. Sometimes I've had a couple of customers that actually just want to do contacts. They just want to record that they talked to someone. That's all they needed. A simple system to just record who I talked to and why. Feedback. Complaints, if you want to call them, or compliments. I'm getting feedbacks about my product, so I need to capture them and put them in one place. Change requests. Change requests are all over the board because they cover so many different things, whether it's from documentation to mechanical items, or whether it happens to be systems that needs to be changed. They're all different types of change requests that comes in. And then finally, all of that then allows management to see the story about what's going on in their business. And that's the idea behind all of this. Track your issues, complete your issues, report to management. 1, 2, 3. Get it, complete it, report it. Once you do those things, then you have a tool that your management can use in order to see what's going on in the company for good or for worse. So it just depends on what type of issue you're trying to track and how your company wants to define that information. So that's why we track the issues. And let me see, I'm going back to the wrong one again. So as I said, issues can be simple or complex. So when we're looking at Issuetrak, and I get that one on a contact, for example, I know I've got a couple of customers that all they're trying to do is record that they talked to someone and what they talked about, give it a category, and close it. That's it. Simple, easy peasy. They don't even need to know who they talked to. They just need to know what they did. Subject, description, type. Boom, done. But from that, then they can do reports based off of what and where and when they talked to someone. What did they discuss? When did they do it? You know, what was the category of the item that they talked to? So they want to know how many conversations they had about a particular area, for example. Then you can have various levels of complexity that you can add into Issuetrak by adding in additional features to give you different types of routes of problems or auto routing, or you can go in here and do different work processes by adding additional features in Issuetrak. For example, deciding whether you need task processes. whether you want business rules to do auto assignments or escalation notifications, whether you want to add in the project features to help you create projects from the items that you had. The other part from that is you might want to use an additional module, billing module, for example. Some of our requests are service requests, and they have a need where they want to put in time, material, and even mileage into an issue and associate it with that service request. Well, billing module does that. Surveys, they want to go ahead and add an ability to get feedback on what they did. So what we did is we add the survey module to it, and then we, from now, in this particular point in time, we can go ahead and have our surveys fit the need of the type of issue that's being defined for. So two different teams, and we'll just use, we always seem to use facilities in IT a lot, but if you have a facilities issue come in, then the survey can be for facilities issues related. If it comes in for IT, it could be from IT. So that could expand across multiple issue types and multiple types of issues you're trying to track. And then there's the asset management module that you can also add into the product to help you take those issues and associate them with different assets or help you track the assets. And again, what types of issues that you need to be associated with an asset record? Well, we can do all of that with the different modules that we have. And finally, you come to the reporting module. The reporting ability in Issuetrak and the feature within Issuetrak to allow you to build the search, the saved searches, or the report writer reports to get the information on a format that your management and your team can use in order to make good decisions about that data. So we've now kind of defined the need. So let's take a look at you. You as customers already have a site. So I'm looking at the list of people that are here attending today, and for the most part, you have got a lot of different customers, and they have a purpose for what their site is. A few of you may have multiple purposes within one site. Some of you even deciding that you want to add a second site to track a different type of issue. There are different needs for different usages. That's okay. We've got a lot of features to use. We've got a lot of ways of handling. The main thing is to make sure that you don't interfere with your current selections. So what happens is you need to do a little analysis work. So if I want to add another type of request to Issuetrak, what are some of the things that I want to know? Will the issue work in my current setup? Now that's an important question because it could be that the type of issue that someone has approached you to add into Issuetrak may not be the best fit in how you got that either that site configured or for the access that that site currently has. And that's a decision sometimes that you'll make because you have to say, okay, Issuetrak can still do it, but let's create two sites to do it instead of one. I don't want to affect my current site. I'd rather spin up another site and go ahead and configure that for your specific need or to configure it to be used for multiple purposes. And I've done that with a couple of teams already. Because it comes down to who needs to see these issues. Because those two questions kind of work together. You've got to say, who can see these issues within my current setup? What groupings do I have? What permissions do those users have? Do I need to have the administrators be able to see these issues? What type of issues are they? If they're business use issues, it may not matter, or complaints or things like that. It may not matter if your administrators see something. But when you get into HR, payroll, sometimes with employee work relations, you want to restrict access to some of those issues so that only certain teams are seeing it. And that's when you get into situations where you say, Issuetrak can probably do it, but I may need to create another site to do it. What processes do these people need to do? You need to have a little bit of understanding about what the processes are going to be, how the issues are going to work. And I've run into situations with this one because it gets a little tricky because a lot of times the people you're talking to have no idea how they're going to make this work. They know they do this and they do that and that's it. Okay, well let's put this into Issuetrak. Can I just do this and do that and meet your need? Okay, good, we're out of here. But a lot of times the answer is, no. We need to do a little bit more. We need to do a little bit here. We need to make sure that we're capturing, while we're in here, let's do this, let's do that. I need to get additional capability. I need better reporting. Okay, let's do it. What's that process going to look like? Is I'm going to be able to take that process and put it in Issuetrak and make it work? Do your due diligence. Can you even implement that process into Issuetrak? And unfortunately, there has been times where Paul and I both have had to advise customers, nah, I don't know if you really want to do that. You're not really going to get the bang for the buck that you're looking for. Now, we don't do that very often because we have people like Tony that does that to start with. We don't have to do it. He'll go in there and he'll say, I don't think that's something you want to do. And so we don't have to deal with it. But sometimes it gets through Tony, and then Tony gives it to us. Says, from what I can see so far, everything looks good. And then Paul and I started asking those driving questions and driving that nail a little bit deeper and tightening that screw a little tighter. And then we hit something that says, I can't tighten it any more than that. That's as far as we can go. We may have to back off. So let me give you a little advice. If you are being approached by other teams or who want to implement another process, if you want to add another issue tracking usage to Issuetrak, explore it. Check your organizations, check your users and groups, check your task, check your visibility controls. And that's probably the main one, is the visibility control. Define what visibility you need. And if you have a question, talk to Tony, talk to Paul, talk to myself, and we'll be happy to give you guidelines. You know, a lot of times if you ask Tony, we'll say, hey, can I have a 30-minute consult with Michael Paul? Done deal. You know,
and
just
Mike,
go in and let us do it. Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. There's a lot of documentation on that. And between the three of us, we probably have this conversation with customers once a week.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so this is something that we want to make sure that everybody knows we're here to help you if something's needed. We're here as a resource. We're going to use our experience with the product, and between Paul and I, we're looking at close to 30 years between the two of us right now. So we've got a lot of man years of experience, and if you throw Tony in there, that's another almost getting closer to 10 by the minute. So it's almost 40 years worth of experience between us in working with Issuetrak. So we'll be happy to help you with anything that comes up. I know I'm just looking at the list of people who are talking to. I've talked to a couple of you already recently about adding another usage to the site. So issue tracking, in kind of conclusion here, I'm going to say this. Issue tracking is whatever you need it to be. We just provide you with the tools. It's how we apply the tools to your usage and to your needs that makes things work. We've become very flexible. It's funny. I got it the other day. It says, I don't think you've ever done anything like this before. And I'm in my back of my head, yeah, this guy did it, this guy did it, this guy did the same thing. This is very similar to what they did. It's not much that Paul, Tony, or I have not heard. It's getting now to where we don't get surprised as often as with you. I don't have to pull out my Wizard of Oz card every once in a while anymore, because more than likely one of us has already talked to someone about doing it. We've got a lot of experience with it. So if you have any questions, please let me know. We're getting down to the end of the time. I've kind of even cut into some of my question time here. So is anything that Paul, Tony, that the team would like to bring up as a question?
Hey, Mike, no questions on that one, but you were segueing at the end, so whatever, I can't say it,
yeah,
about really,
we're going that way.
You know, the expanding. So can you spend like 30 seconds, like the first decision, or when you're doing a new process, are you standing up a new site or not?
Yeah, I think that has to do a lot of times with the administrator. The administrator on the site makes that call more than anything else, whether you want that administrator to see those issues, especially when you get into things like HR and payroll and things like sensitive issues is where I get to. I have a couple of them that we've set up sites for tracking executive issues. Essentially, the highest level of the company needs to track these things. They don't want the IT administrator or the system admin in the site to see it. That automatically is a brand new site. So, you're gonna get those. You've got to define who needs to see what, and what, especially the administrators in the site, what they can see, because they see everything. You can't hide anything from an administrator.
Okay, and that's a quick conversation anybody could have with you and Paul, just to lock that decision in.
Yeah,
then everything else is straightforward in terms of
pretty much straightforward. And then we bring Tony in at that point.
Yep, and we've got, I just started the process of updating that doc too. We've got a doc about best practices for expanding Issuetrak too.
Yep.
So it's in updated state right now, or will be soon.
All right, folks. Well, we're going to jump off, give you a little time to maybe get some water before we start back. We're going to try to start back at 1:30. We're going to start talking about the report, about email, so you can get a better understanding of exactly all the features that you have within email. So hopefully my microphone and everything on my headset's going to work. If not, I'll be yelling at you through the screens on my microphones. So we'll see what happens. Talk to you soon. Bye.